Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby AU Round 9 review, or Super Rugby Gold as we like to call it. Obviously AU being the chemical symbol of gold. See, we are such a sciencey and intelligent podcast here on New Zealand Sports Radio. I am Paul, your host this evening, the host with the most, obviously, and joining me this evening to go through all of the action. First up, we've got Steve. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. Another weekend of gold rugby, we call it. Another weekend closer to some gold finals. Brilliant times.
Absolutely. And did you get both your predictions right this weekend?
No, we won't talk about that. But hey, I'm still top of the table. And that's all that matters. I mean, some filthy person actually predicted that second match, which we'll talk about soon. Actually predicted that. I mean, I'm not pleased at all, but well played to that good sir.
And was that good sir Ashwin? Ashwin, did you predict the Waratahs win?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have picked the Waratahs to win.
Oh, absolutely. You're like that guy who had the radio feed 30 seconds before the TV feed on the old race, on the old boxing, and managed to swindle everyone out of lots of money. You're one of those sort of dodgy guys.
Oh, mate, I'll tell you a better one than that. This is like
on.
at the tennis, because of the delayed TV coverage. Obviously, the bookies are watching the delayed TV coverage. So I can't remember exactly how it was working, but there were guys inside the stadium watching the game, and they were getting a feed into what the bets were, and they're placing the bet because they've seen what's happened, and that hasn't come up on the screen. Something like that anyway. And that was at a tennis match.
What are we doing with our lives? Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, but you ruined my introduction.
Oh, sorry. What's your introduction?
You were supposed to go, oh, Ashwin, how you doing? I was going, the whole universe was in a hot, dense spin.
What planet are you on? Seriously, right?
Sheldon, Penny, Leonard. No? Still nothing?
Steve, help me here, please. It's a Kiwi
I'm
thing.
not sure what that's got to do with the price of milk, to be quite honest with you, but okay.
It was you were going on about being scientists and the periodic table and old, and that's the Big Bang Theory, dude. The Big Bang Theory.
He's going modern on us. Yeah, okay.
I'm modern on you. How can I not go modern on you? You're still a kid.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, you take that.
Not arguing. No. Thanks. And that's the show this week, folks. Thanks for joining us.
He's going to finish on a high.
We're not going to beat this peak. We're out.
There you go, Steve, folks. You don't just get middle-aged white guy, middle-aged out of touch white guys like me on the show. You get all sorts of diversity here. We've got young guys.
Yes, Steve was,
we've also got
Steve was supposed to go, okay, boomer.
I missed that one. Damn.
Can we rewind and do it again?
See, as you can tell, folks, this is live. This is not recorded. There is no second take. And this is why we do it live, is because I hate editing on the whole. But also, not only that, but you guys can join in. So hi, folks who are watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We do come to bring you these review shows on a Sunday at 8 p.m. every single week. So if you want to join us live, you can do and put your thoughts in the comments. Or you can listen to us the recording on the go. You can download the podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Acast, all those wonderful podcatcher thingamajigs. Just search for New Zealand Sports Radio. So we kicked off on Friday evening with the Brumbies versus the Force. And this was the Force of old. Wow, we haven't seen this Force for like 2 weeks. And they actually started and kept in this for the first half, or at least the first half hour. Steve.
Oh, yeah, they did. I mean, yeah, I presume by that you mean the Force of, the first couple of rounds, where they actually started off quite well and they actually played themselves into the game. They shocked teams with their exciting, good, nice to watch rugby, however you'd call it, that sort of thing. But hey, they actually played a pretty decent sort of match all round, the old Force. They probably played, although the scoreline says that they, as usual, fell away at the end, which they did. They really come and competed with the Brumbies, and I think that was probably one of their better matches in all. I know they've started off a bit hotter. They scored 3-4 tries in some games earlier on the season and really, really looked good. But this was against the Brumbies. I mean, most people expect them to get absolutely hammered in this matchup, but I thought they come and they made a good little showing of themselves here. They performed well, and what we talked about in the preview, if any good New Zealand Sports Radio listener would have heard the preview last week on Friday evening at 8 p.m, as per always, they would have known we talked about how the Force need to bring back that good kicking game that they had in the earlier games. Donald Lance going for those corners, playing that territorial game, and when they get in control of that, they can score their points and they can get into the game, and I thought they did that really, really well. The Brumbies, though, as we spoke about every single week, week in and week out, just too clinical, too professional, and they are happy to wait a team out. They're happy to stay, like we talk about the Crusaders in Super Rugby Aotearoa. They're happy to sit around, keep in touch, stay in the game, and then when the wheels start falling off in that last 20 minutes, it's like, okay, now we play our rugby. Thanks for coming, and see you later.
Yeah, I mean, composure is the thing about this Brumbies team, isn't it? I'm not sure clinical is necessarily the right word.
Well, for Australian standards,
considering they had 3 tries disallowed, 3. I mean, Ashwin, this one again. Look, this was a 2-score. Well, no, this was a 3-score win, but with 3 scores left on the park as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I thought Cornflakes was being a bit sort of generous to the Force there and saying with 20 minutes to go. It was more like with about 60 minutes to go, it was like the Brumbies composure sort of. And really, I mean, the Force are just a tease, aren't they, really? I mean, like, they play well, and it's like, oh, maybe the Force have turned up and can carry on for, as we've spoken about, they never carry on for 80 minutes. But maybe they'll carry on for 80 minutes. Maybe they're going to put in a performance and show some stamina in it. But no, after about 20 minutes or 30 minutes, you could see that the Brumbies were going to roll over the top of them.
It's annoying to watch, isn't it? Because you can see it when the game starts. They're quite structured, especially defensively. They've got their lines. They cover well, and you know the guys going out wide. They have that trust on the inside. And as the game wears on, you kind of see it gets a bit fractured, and that guy on the outside is kind of looking back and going, "Oh, does he still have him?" And then the trust starts to break down. All sorts of goes, and it rolls down, and then you get that first initial break, and then the defensive line doesn't reset, and it all just snowballs in effect. So it's annoying to watch. They could get that first 10, 20 minutes and play for that whole game. Hey, we might be in for a match. But, I mean, I look at next weekend and I just say, if there's ever a time for the Force to actually really, be that team that everyone goes, oh, no, it's next weekend.
Won't happen. But the other we talked about last week. I think it was last week. We talked about in the is it good to have all that old guys in the Force or with the experience, or are they just old guys? And it's just like, Richard Kahui's a classic after, watching a little bit closely, particularly when things started to fall apart for them. And he looks like he's playing president's grade, right? He has those absolute class moments of genius because he is class. But then it's like, I've got to chase him. It'll be all right. And there was, I think it's in the second half. I mean, I know I'll get in trouble for jumping ahead and reviewing the whole show in 2 minutes, but the game. But he put a shocking kick in or whatever, and it's just like, it's turned to crap, and it's like, it's turned to crap, and it's sort of an element of what you're saying. Is the guy inside me? Is the trust there? And it's like, can I be asked? And all that sort of thing comes into it as well. And you got to wonder, is that because it's these old guys playing and they think it's presidents?
But to be fair to the Force, they came out after the beginning of the second half, had a line up more in the corner that got totally stopped. The Brumbies just marched down the field, scored a try. Suddenly it's 17-7, and I'm thinking, okay, it's the wheels are off now. It's going to be one-way traffic from here on in. But no, the Force did come back and score a try. So I mean, they didn't give up heart in this one, which I think is good. Whereas in other games, they have totally fallen apart. Whereas they did, there was that one where they did get a try back, and you're thinking, hang on a second, 17-14, 54 minutes gone. Could we be on for a game? Well, no, but at least I was, there was a moment there you thought, well, actually, hang on, maybe the Force aren't just going to lie down and die. They have got something left in them in the second half, and I think there was a bit of an attempt to try and make the bench show a bit more experienced than previously, because previously what's happened is they've taken players off, and the guys who've come on really aren't that experienced, and it's been too late.
I think you look at the Brumbies and you sort of think, they're not I know what Cornflake said at the top of the show in terms of, they're the crusaders of the rugby gold in Australia, but they haven't been. They started off the tournament pretty clinical, and I think some of that accuracy is not there anymore like they had at the beginning of the tournament. I actually think that, and you're watching the game, you think, and you got this feeling the Brumbies going to win, but they're not the clinical force. I mean, like, you look at their driving mauls. Their driving mauls are actually not working as well as they were at the beginning of the season, and that's sort of a good sign.
Only being good is what you're up against.
No, I think I've seen it. Yeah, I think I've seen that sort of. I've got that feeling from the Brumbies in the previous games as well. Some of the games leading up to this one. So yeah, I mean, you'd sort of think, hey, look, you're coming up against the force. Exactly, you play what's in front of you, but it's actually been a little bit more prevalent in some of their games leading up to this one as well, as the fact is that they don't seem to be as accurate as what they have been or clinical.
I think they're getting quite a bit of the pressure from the media as well, saying, oh, they're only good at getting the maul. They'll only kick to the corner and score more tries. And I think that's kind of into the mental aspect of the game, as we talk about, the mental 101 sort of school that we do on the show. They've tried probably over the top too much, maybe some may say, to expand that game into their backline and play that more expansive style and prove that they're not just a driving maul team. But like you say, they've kind of lost that effectiveness of the maul and gone from the other side of things. So, yeah, it's all in the head. Rugby is a mental game.
And speaking of driving mauls, make sure you join the team tomorrow night on the Driving Maul Show, all right, here on New Zealand Sport Radio.
At 8 p.m.
At 8 p.m. But no, you're probably right there, actually. I mean, it's not fair, Mum. They only think that we've got a driving maul. They don't think we can play rugby. And it's just like, so they're trying to sort of get a bit more expansive, and they've scored some good tries, to be fair. But it just doesn't feel that same clinical approach to the game that they had earlier in the season.
You look at the Brumbies though, and you look at their team, and I think it's something we've been quite critical about them for probably last 2 or 3 years, is that we always said, yes, they got a great forward pack, a really top level forward pack at Australian standards. It's really, really good, but they've got all these great backs. They've got all these great power runners, these fast, game-breaking players. They just don't utilize them. They just don't use them. So this has been the season, I think, that they have tried to turn their game around. But, I mean, guys like Folau Fainga must be sitting there and going, I'm the guy going for the leading try scorer bonus here. What about my game? What about my pocket? And guys on the outside like Tom Wright is loving life. He's actually part of a team now that's actually going to give him the ball. So we're seeing two different sides of the Brumbies here, a team I think that can play that tight sort of game, which I think when it gets to finals rugby, they're actually going to revert back to playing that game, because it's going to come back to, okay, now we've got to win. Doesn't matter how we do it. Doesn't matter how ugly it is. Doesn't matter how poor it is or whatever. We've got to win the game. How are we going to score tries? Fainga at the back of them all. That's how we score tries. That's how we roll. If things get a bit sticky, we've got the guys out the back and still do stuff for us. But, yeah, they're going to revert back to that. But it's nice to see, because we talked about, the future of Australia, and those guys are a huge part. Tom Wright is a guy we've seen who can completely do amazing, magical things. We've seen him quite significantly over the last couple of weeks actually play a huge part of a role in a team that actually uses their backline. So for their perspective, and I think for their careers, this is a great year to be part of the Brumbies.
And I think another player that came out, Tom Banks is a guy that I've got thought is a real nice player, but someone that's gone missing. And not maybe not had much to do, but I haven't really seen him. Sorry,
he's in Canberra.
But I thought he had a much better game this game as well. He's starting to play some nice footy in there. It's interesting that the K train has been dropped from that
derailed.
From that 13 jersey, and Kata has come in and played there instead, which we think is an interesting change. for them, and maybe that's helped them out a bit because let's be honest, Kieran Draney not known for his passing ability. Let's be honest, and he hasn't really been bashing it up either. So you're kind of like, well, why are you there if you're not doing either of those sort of things?
I just want to go back to Tom Banks. Would you put him in a test team?
Depends where you played him.
Well, the thing is that I was sort of looking at this, and for want of a term, I'm going to call Super Rugby first class level, right? And then you got internationals with the tests and that. And I just feel his game works at a first class level. I don't think that the way that he plays would work in a test match environment. He'd just get shut down, and not only would he get shut down, he gets shut down well behind the advantage line as well.
So who plays the Wallabies number 15 jumper then?
Sorry, Paul, go.
Well, obviously you're good. Dane Howlett-Petty if he's not injured, but he spends most of his time injured. And the question is, where do you fit Reece Hodge into the side? Because
bench.
He's got the Howitt's for a boot, and he actually also scores a lot of tries. I know people are kind of he's not very fancy with his running, but he's a big bloke who gets himself in the right place at the right time to score tries. So you've got to see, okay, where are you going to play Hodge? So do you play him at 13, or do you play him where I think there's a couple of options, or do you play him at 15? So I think he could be the 15.
If you want to back it up on backing it up, we can go back to talking about Solomon Carter for a second. Waste of time. Kieran Draney's been pretty average, but I think Solomon Carter, for a guy that goes in there and promises to be a big bulldozer, I think is relatively ineffective again. And I know we'll talk about it later, but I think Moroa, who played for the Waratahs, another kind of big running outside centre, was the most impressive out of all these big running outside centres out of all the weekend. Maybe because he's a new guy, he put in a little bit more effort, but Carter didn't do it for me. I'd much prefer him out in the wing where he actually gets a little bit of space. I don't know. He just seems way more effective. I hardly even noticed him for the Brumbies at all. Yeah,
he definitely looks more effective on the wing. Carter,
but I mean, they've got a problem out there, don't they? Kieran Draney's doing nothing. Mix it up with Carter. Didn't really do much either. Where do they go? They've got a lot of talent there, but it's just not working in how they're playing.
Yep.
And you get the ball to Mr. Wright on the wing.
Exactly. Just put a passer there.
Well, I guess that's what Simone's there for, isn't it? Really, as well. I mean, there's some good outside backs available to the Wallabies as well. We've got to talk about Banks. We talked about Wright, but you've also, Ram's doing quite well for the Tars. Corabetti obviously scored a try this weekend. Reece Hodge we've also mentioned as well. Newsom. So there's a few options out there, and maybe they're looking at trying to see if Kato can move in. Obviously, this is first season at Rugby Union. He's a league convert, so this is probably his first, maybe second game at 13. So maybe
that's why he sort of looks good on the wing at the moment, because obviously still learning the game, and at the end of the day, all you have to do not all you have to do, but you want to do the basics on the wing at the moment, catch and run hard, and you still got to learn that game to play 13 to know when to do what. But I'm sort of thinking, at the end of the day, we all know who's going to wear the yellow jersey for Australia in test matches, if we ever play test matches again. That's going to be Jordan Petaia.
Oh, that's true. Yep.
Yeah.
Where though? Where? What jersey?
13. I'll put him in 13.
They're pretty reluctant to play him.
I know they're putting him on the wing and... Sorry, say that again, Cornflakes?
They're pretty reluctant to play him in that midfield, though. I agree with you, 100%.
For the Reds, right? Yeah. You're talking about for the Reds. Yeah, absolutely. But
internationally as well. He's only played for the Wallabies on the wing, pretty much.
Yeah, but it's sort of so he got brought into the team, and then he's had injuries and the like. So I don't think he had the time in the setup to then also just be shuffled in. And you got to remember, he's how old is he now, Paul?
20.
20 now. So he was about 18 when he first came into the Wallabies environment. So it's like a Jonah type thing, He's 18-year-old. You chuck him on the wing, give him the ball, and he runs hard. So I think now with the getting older, he's always been a centre. So I think he will. Yep. And geez, when he's played centre for the Reds, he just looks class.
It's interesting you talk about that, because I've been working on it over the whole season. I've mentioned it a couple of times, but I'm pretty much, it seems weird, but the Wallabies have so much youth and talent coming through their division at the moment. It's insane. I've pretty much made well over a 23, probably a 30-man squad at the moment of players under. I think I've got one player at 28 or two players at 28. The rest are all 26 and under of good quality players who have impressed throughout the season. And yeah, it's hard to fit these guys all in because there is so much massive talent throughout this whole squad and throughout the whole of Australia. I think their future is really, really bright in a lot of key areas as well.
Which is surprising, isn't it? Because they've done okay at under 20s level, but they haven't stood out like, let's say, a France has at under 20s level, where you're going, oh crap, if those under 20s for France make it all the way through, they're going to be powerhouse. But you haven't seen that with the Australian under 20 side. But as you say, absolutely, when you watch the Super Rugby Gold from Australia, what you notice is the young kids coming through and how well they're playing. That's the thing that stands out, is how well the young talent is playing. And I think it goes back to something we talked about last week in terms of, they don't have to worry about finding 150, 200 players to fit 5 rugby franchises. They've got to find 30, 32 players that can put on a yellow jersey and play internationals. Which I think if they'll put these young kids in now, and maybe not straight away, but next year and the year after, they're going to be hitting their straps.
I think being a bit harsh on their under 20s. I think for the past 2 years they've beaten the New Zealand schoolboys, the Australian schoolboys have won, and then last year they made it to the final and lost to France in the under 20s final. That was the first time. So I think that program is starting to bear fruit. I think it's probably where France was 3 years ago. So I think it is starting to do that. So
there's some immense talent in that team, though. I mean, stay tuned on that. I'm going to bring a written piece on everything. They have some insane players who have stood out this year that are 21, 22, 23. And names that you wouldn't think about. How old do you think Lukan Salakai-Loto is? The guy that's killing it for the Reds. Just on that guy, how old do you think he is?
Oh, I would have thought he's in the high 20s.
23.
Is he only 23?
Wow.
Liam Wright.
He's the same guy that basically changed his name, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Liam Wright.
Feels like he's been around for like about 5 seasons. Yeah.
There you go.
So
Gary Wilson.
I'm going to try and twist Steve's arm and make that a for your ears only episode.
Ooh.
So become a supporter of New Zealand Sports Radio to get some special access to that video where Steve names his is New Zealand is Australian 23 under 23 or 23 and under.
With a couple of 28-year-olds.
Yeah,
that's
a couple.
Special dispensation.
a bit like the Olympics football, where they all have to be young apart from 2 or 3 players. For some reason. I have no idea how that all seems to work. But anyway, that's a funny round ball game. You need some weird shaped balls. Round shaped balls just don't work. So now we've put Ashwin in his place, and we've sorted all that out. Don't forget that this basically now means the Brumbies have secured themselves top spot in the table. They will go straight to the final and have home advantage in that final. They do get to play next weekend against the Reds, but as we will find out in a second, the Reds have also qualified for a home elimination final. So both of them can use next weekend for resting players. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how that pans out. And as Steve says, check out the Super Rugby AU round 10 preview, which will be at 8 p.m. on Friday, where he'll talk about both those squads and how those two teams have gone about rotating their players. Hopefully, yes, because next weekend, remember, we've got a Super Saturday next weekend where we will have the Rebels versus the Force having an early kickoff. We then get the North versus South game, and then that's backed up by the Reds versus Brumbies game. So 3 games back to back, all next Saturday. Doesn't get much better than that.
Before we move on, though, before we go away from the Brumbies and the Western Force, there's one big thing that I think we need to credit or to talk about slightly. Address. That's a great word. Amy Perrott, the first female full referee or main referee of a Super Rugby game. Great achievement, guys. I mean, what do you guys think? I thought she did a great job. I mean, I couldn't fault anything. Great support from Angus Gardner on the sidelines as well. I thought that the assistant referees were really, really good in helping her out. But I think she really took control of that game herself, put the players in their place, had no problem telling them to get lost and to shut up. really good performance. I mean, I don't care what sex they are. They've just got to control the game and be in control of the players in the match and make the right calls. And I think, I'd give her a definite 10 out of 10. Great show. If you didn't hear her voice or see her, it wouldn't make no difference. The game was controlled really well.
I won't go quite far as a 10 out of 10. I think that she did a great job and it's her first one. So I think she'll only get better. So that's why I can't give her a 10 out of 10 because I think she'll get better. And then mathematically, you're talking about 110%, which we never figure out how a player can give 110%. So that's why I won't give a 10 out of 10. But I thought she did a great job in what we'd expect from any referee at that level to deliver. So not out of place at all. The only thing I will say is that I think whether it was the nerves or the adrenaline or whatever, she was puffed. There's a few times when she was out of breath and some of the faces, she's catching up, like when she's having a chat to Carter, she was puffing.
Yeah, I think she found that. Yeah, I think she, as you say, each step up in the rugby, you get the pace increases, and you're right. Yeah, I think she perhaps a bit surprised by the pace of the game.
And there would have been the element of any time when obviously it's her big first game like that player at Super Rugby level, everything's amped up even before you're running around, sort of thing. So yeah, I think there could have been an element of that. As you say, the speed of the game moves up. So, but yeah, that it's not a fault. It's just something that is interesting.
Well, as you say, while she appeared out of breath at times, she was keeping up with play, which is the important thing. But she
never fell behind.
No, so that was all good, and sure, I'm sure her fitness will improve as she gets a few more games under her belt, gets match fit, just like the players. And they did the right thing, didn't they? Look, you got a rookie referee, you give them experienced ARs who help them, and that's absolutely. So it was done properly, and yeah, done well.
I thought you were going to say, and you give them a game that doesn't matter.
We started to get a bit nervous in that game because it was getting close. Like Paul said, it was 17-14 with 25 minutes or so to go. And it's like, imagine this if the force upset them. It's like, it was all because of the referee, blah, 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 blah. I was starting to get a bit worried, but no, it all panned out all right. Fair play to her.
I did like her one line that she came out with pretty early on, which was like, if you all stop shouting, you might be able to hear me. Which was kind of, they were like, didn't hear your call, sorry, ref. Well, yeah, if you shut up and stop shouting, you'd hear what I'm sort of talking about. So yeah, well done, girl. So yeah, good. Yeah, no, she had a good.
Ooh, can't say girl.
Oh. And I said them. Yeah, the boys had a good run out. All good. Anyway, moving on to the Rebels versus Waratahs. This was a key game, and so I've only seen highlights this one. I'll be honest, rather than actually the whole game. Ashwin has kind of seen the game, but he was looking at his phone most of the time. So Ashwin, between tweets and Facebook ravings, what did you what did you actually spot in this game?
Oh, look, to me, I just thought it's weird, right? Because you're watching the game, the Waratahs are having periods of dominance, the Rebels are having periods of... You actually felt like the Rebels were the better team, but then they're... It just... The other thing that it felt like is that they're just relying too much on Naisarani and Korobedi. It's about, get the ball to Korobedi. It's like, God, will you stop throwing him the ball without actually drawing some of the defense? It's just like, there's space out on the wing. Yes, there is space out on the wing. But if you give the ball to him straight away, that space is taken up by the defenders just running to the wing and taking his space up. And even then, he ended up scoring that try towards the end of the game, which was a great effort. I thought he'd get sort of wrapped up. I didn't think he'd get bundled out, but I thought he'd get snuffled up there. And but no, he made it. But, at the end of the day, Naisarani off the back of the rucks, or Korobedi out wide. That seemed the options for the Rebels, and they really need to mix it up a bit more.
Just on that Korobedi try, though, the composure he shows to make sure that he slides and it is one movement and he doesn't. It'd been so easy for him to do a little crawl just to try and get that little bit extra, but no, he showed great composure in that.
Well, so what you notice is that so he reaches out once, so he's in the slide and he does reach out once, and then Hooper, as part of his landing, and his arm actually hits the arm that Corbetti's got the ball in and pushes it further forward. He's short. With his first placement of the ball, he's short. Hooper's arm thrusting that arm forward further gets him to the line.
So I thought it was great. Yeah, he could so easily have made that a double movement and lost that try.
Yeah, absolutely.
But really, really well played by him there. And I think the other thing about the Rebels here is they let the Tars come back and score quickly in replies. So which was one of the things I noticed. So look,
lack of exit plays.
The Rebels get themselves back into it just before half time with a try, and immediately 2 minutes later the
3 points.
The Waratahs are knocking over a penalty. Straight after half time, they even things up with a try. 3 minutes later, the Tars are scoring a try. They just didn't maintain a concentration, and you say, their exit plays.
Nothing that sums that up even more so than when basically the Waratahs sort of secured the game. When it wasn't off the back of a kickoff, but the charge down and the 10 score. I've forgotten 10's name. But he goes and scores under the post. That's probably sort of sums up. Although, as I said, not necessarily that one wasn't from a restart, but talking about clearing your own red zone, and they stuffed that up. And he was deep. He had plenty of time, so there was no reason why his kick should have been charged down in that situation as well. And when they scored that, it was pretty much game over.
Yeah, and the other thing that I found surprising by that was, so he charged it down, and then suddenly you're looking around, and it's like there's a line of light blue jerseys, and you're like, well, where are all the Rebels? This is clearly the Tars, and I hate to say it because it's a cliche in rugby that they just wanted it more, but we've seen that
they just wanted it more.
They did, but there's been a couple of games now where the Tars, it was like 2 weeks ago when they won a key game, and you're like, well, look, this is because against the Reds, that's right. And you're like, this is because they were just hustling, and they were just getting to every 50-50 ball first. And again, that's part of what happened today against the Rebels. So
I was also stuck with something else in my head. I think Cornflakes said last week. So it's just like because the Waratahs, it's supposed to be like they're supposed to win.
There is a sense of entitlement about them. Hey, but it's Sydney, right? It's a bit like the Blues. There's a sense of entitlement about the Blues, except that's been worn away by the last decade.
2 decades.
2 decades.
Ish.
But they're the guys from the big city. Hence, they should win, right? But they've also got more wallabies than most other teams have. They just generally don't play as a team. And maybe Rob Penny's actually managing to motivate this team finally. It's taken him a while, but maybe things are going the right direction for them. Scary thought. Not their lineouts, mind you. 4 lost lineouts. Deary me. Bit poor.
It was a weird game. It was a weird game.
It was a weird game.
You talk about that kick. I agree with what you said, Paul. That kick was really strange, how there was no one out. Everyone was out on that wing. There was about 4 or 5 Rebels players 5 meters forward chasing that, and a huge hole. It was so strange to have that one guy just defending or kicking so deep from that position and just having no real clue as to what was going on. It was obvious what was going to happen. It was obvious what was going to defensively what they were going to do. But there was weird stuff. The Rebels almost should have won that game through the fact that they got the rub of the green, to use a completely different sporting term. That try you talked about at the start, to Corabetti really shouldn't have stood, because Joey Walton got absolutely wiped out when he probably, from a referee's perspective looking back at it, probably should have got called back for an obstruction. He would have got to that player in some capacity, I reckon, to have made that tackle. You look from a referee's perspective, when you look at where he's standing, he was in a position he would have covered across, to at least have deterred.
But from a referee's perspective, he's 5 meters yes, he would have got across, but generally, if you're 5 meters away, which he was at that time, they don't call obstruction. Now they should do, and it should be obstruction because that is he's running an American football blocking line. He's blocked the player. But they generally don't call those because you have to be within arm's distance, pretty much, of touching the player when the obstruction happens, normally, to get your obstruction.
The Crusaders will be all over that for a tactic for next season. Then that's certainly cashed in and ready to go. I thought that was a slice of luck, and they brought them right back into the game as well. They were right there, and like you guys already said, they just let them back in. From errors, almost like they were too desperate to find a way back, or too desperate to try and get back into the game, that they forgot about the basics, like you said, of clearing out their 22 and doing that sort of thing, that they just invited it straight back. And the Waratahs, I think, are a team best with their backs against the wall. When things really go to pot, when it all comes crashing down and they're left with no other way to get out of it, no other escape, that's when they play their best rugby, and that's when they are their most dangerous. And they just never let the Rebels get into that game. They're always, like their boxer, they just had the fist out the whole time. They were just never able to get that blow to actually get in front. And that's what they do best when they're really challenged.
Hey, Paul, what were you saying about, they have to be next to the player, otherwise they don't call it? You obviously didn't see the Bristol Saracens game then, where Tojo was miles away from affecting a tackle, and they allowed it to be seen as obstruction.
Different rules in the north, you know that.
Yeah, in the north.
I think they did call one this season in about 3 or 4 weeks ago, where we were like, "Yay! Finally, they've called an obstruction that isn't properly." So yes, but you just don't. You can see on the commentators going, well, clear obstruction, and they didn't even look at it. They were only looking at did he ground it. And then the other one the commentators got was, I don't understand how that's yellow. Well, it's yellow because the referee has told them the next penalty down at this end of the pitch is going to be a yellow card.
Was that the Waratahs yellow?
The Waratahs yellow, yeah.
Yeah, because I couldn't imagine Kearnsey saying that for a Rebels yellow.
That was a very biased commentary, wasn't it? That was an incredibly at the offside line. How many times did we hear the kickoff offside at the kickoff? Every single kickoff.
He's offside.
Oh, he's offside.
To be fair,
the mics are slightly away. Oh, he's offside.
To be fair, the controversial moment in the game, and I don't know, it could have actually had a bearing on the game finish. It was towards the end. That's a red card every day of the week and twice on Sunday, tackle? As Steve would say. No arms, shoulder into the head, direct contact into the head, with no arms. That's a red card every day of the week. And Naisarani went off. They had about 3 or 4 minutes left in the game, and the Rebels were only behind by less than a try. So, and as I said, Naisarani's the Rebels' go-to guy. That's a red card there every day of the week, and twice on Sunday. That's Steve's line.
Well, they didn't show that in the highlights, so I didn't see that, unfortunately.
Oh, geez, how was that?
Oh, I see. That's why you're going to watch the game, Paul.
Probably because it wasn't a yellow. So it was only they got a penalty for it, and that's it.
They just got a penalty. That's it. Yeah, it was only a penalty.
2 minutes. Well, they took him off as well, so he was down for ages.
It was funny because he was down for ages, and I thought that because usually the TMO usually goes, off air, sort of. You might want to have a look at that. I might just want to ask for a check on that one, and then 2 minutes later, all of a sudden the referee's going, "Oh, hey, we might go back and have a look at that." And I was waiting for that because they'd stopped for so long, but didn't come. And it's funny because, as I said, it was so clear there was a red card. If they'd gone back to it, it would have been a clear red.
They called it for a high tackle or no arm tackle straight away, didn't they? And it just flanged him. I mean, not often a guy like Naisarani gets absolutely just squashed like that. He just went down like a
he went down like stack of potatoes.
And I mean, it's something pretty bad. And the replays certainly didn't do him any favors at all.
It's a good point you raised, actually, because generally speaking, if they feel like, oh wow, that seems to be a rather, he's gone down really bad, we better have a look at that, even if you sort of think, oh, there's nothing in it. And it's like you'd go back and like, oh yeah, generally there is something in it. That's why they've gone down so hard. So it's strange, as you say, he went down so quick, so hard, and he called it straight away. The penalty was called straight away. And it's generally in the situation like that, they do go, "Ooh, that doesn't seem right. We might go have a look at it."
And he dropped the ball as well, which is generally a good sign when they drop the ball. It's like other things are more important than holding on to the ball, like my head staying on my neck. So but when you know they drop the ball like that and they don't really care at all where the ball's gone, that's something's pretty bad.
HIA, get him off, HIA.
He was the king. He didn't want to go. Didn't want to go.
Oh, of course, they never do. And it was very interesting there that the Tars kind of, well, look, they're within a score. So the Tars could lose the game, but because they want to make sure that the Rebels don't get a losing bonus point for the table, they keep chasing the game. And the Tars could have lost that one, which was an interesting one. Yeah, Hooper kicking it downfield, Corabetti then deciding I'm going to try and run it out my own in goal, and they decided, yeah, no, I'm this is getting silly. I'm going to walk off the pitch. I'm taking my ball home with me too. And they're all going, he can't. A referee deliberately walks off the pitch. And the rest like, yes, he's allowed to. No, he can't be allowed to. That's not allowed. Yes, it is.
We don't want to go home yet.
Yes. Last try wins.
We're winning.
Last try wins.
Oh, dearie me. So next weekend, 2 games. Then we've got the Rebels versus the Western Force, which actually matters. The Rebels need to score. We need a try bonus point win, basically, to definitely climb above the Tars. Clearly, if they just get the win, then we'll have all sorts of complicated calculations getting out.
No.
It's quite simple.
Points differential. Win.
Yeah, points differential, and they only win by 4 points.
Rebels need to win. That's it.
Yeah, beat the Force and win by 4 points or more. Simple as that.
There we go. You've ruined all the fun. Yes, because points difference to the Tars is 15, points difference to the Rebels is 12. Hence, Rebels need to win by. Yeah, okay, there we go. So Rebels need to win by that one, and then you've got the Reds versus the Brumbies, which is probably, in all honesty, going to be a preview of the final, as the Reds will have a semi-final.
Finally accepted it. Well done. You've accepted the Reds. Good work.
And it's all because basically it's only because there's coronavirus in Melbourne and the Rebels can't go home. Otherwise, they're a much better team than the Reds, and twice on Sundays.
Every day of the week. You need to get that bit in there.
Oh, dear me. Folks, as you can see, Ashwin is wearing an Aces cap, so don't forget to join him on our cricketing show on a Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Called Swinging from the Hip, where he'll be talking about rained out 2020 games. Which is what's happened so far, but there's another game tonight, so hopefully we'll get a result from that one that you can talk about. As Ashwin said earlier, do join us tomorrow night at 8 p.m. on Monday for the Driving Ball Show, where we're going to talk about basically rugby off the pitch kind of sorts of things. Also, keep it here. I've already recorded a interview with the Southland head coach, and I've got interviews lined up with 10 out of the other. I think it's 10 out of the other 13 minus 10 cup provinces. So you can see what I'm going to be talking. Who I'm going to be talking with over the next 2 weeks. A lot of lots of minus 10 cup coaches. So hopefully we'll have every single team there. So only 3 of them. 4. Sorry, 4 of them haven't replied positively yet, but everyone else has. So do check those out. Thank you so much for joining me, Cornflake. How are you doing, sir? Have a good weekend.
Great. Yeah, more when the Reds come back and win. I'm looking forward to next. What I'm really looking forward to? I'm looking forward to the Force actually scaring everyone, because no one wanted the Force to have to depend on this. And the Force are kind of like the Highlanders were in Super Rugby Aotearoa. Everyone was going, go on Highlanders, except for Auckland. And now we've kind of got that where everyone's cheering on the Force to do the job against the Rebels, except for everyone in Melbourne. So, yeah, I mean, isn't it funny how it transfers across the ditch, eh? So, let's see how it goes. Hopefully the Force can actually, make a bit of a match of it and scare everyone. That would be exciting.
I think everyone wants the Rebels to win, because then that means the Waratahs don't make the playoffs. No one likes
probably. I'll jump on that, yeah.
Ashwin doing his Facebook thumbs up there. Brilliant. Well done, sir. And obviously next weekend is the North versus South game as well down in Wellington with no crowds. But yep, that'll be fun to watch. Ashwin, thank you for joining us. Have you had a good weekend?
Yeah, I've had a weekend of putting together a Tamiya RC car. Woohoo!
Oh, okay. Remote control car, folks. If you couldn't understand what he was saying there, that was English. But yes, that was the brand and the yes. Never mind.
Nobody. Oh man, I thought it was everybody knew what a Tamiya RC car was. My bad.
No. Yeah, if you do follow Ashwin on Facebook, you'll see that he loves lots of remote control. Logging trucks is his favorite one at the moment. So you can check out those if you want to. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. I hope you had a great weekend. Sorry, not you get the weekend's nearly over. It's have a great week and catch you all tomorrow on the Driving More show when I get my cursor up. End broadcast.